So today we have to keep the session Friday evening rather than Saturday evening because tomorrow we have a program. We're having a Harinam Sankirtan in one place in RR Nagar. So that's why instead of tomorrow we are having the session today. So tomorrow is Patipur is coming with us for Harinam Sankirtan. So it's something very special. So we have to just reschedule the timing for today evening. So for some of it must be inconvenient because of the change of timing. But those who cannot come online today may hear the recording at your convenience.
Prabhuji, I have one doubt, but not from Mahabharata.
Can we take it after some time at the end of the session?
Yes, okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So today's topic is this. Vanaparva Part 3. Converting adversity into opportunity. I'll start with short prayers. Mama Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarini Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in the last session of Mahabharata, we discussed about the adventures of Bhima and Arjuna in the Himalayas. Okay. So before we go to today's session, can we just can any of you just tell the important lessons what we learned in the last session? Yeah. We learned some important lessons from Arjuna's visit to heavens.
Hare Krishna.
And also from Bhima's sin. Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
We spoke about the beauty of Indraloka and about Urvashi's approach to Arjuna to asking him to get married, and Arjuna rejects the same, saying that he is like she will be like a mother to him, and then she curses him. Then Indra says it's a blessing, like you will have the self-control, like regularly.
Correct.
And here on the other side, we have this Pandavas in this Badrikashrama.
Correct.
But there is a forest, Kamakya forest.
So, correct. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing the lesson of Indra.
Thank you.
In heavens.
Prabhuji, Bhima's meeting with his elder brother, and you said we will discuss today the death of Maniman.
Correct. So, there is one. The Maniman was the
commander-in-chief.
Was commander of Kuvera. So he was killed, and he was actually cursed by one sage, Agastya Muni, because he spat on Agastya Muni. He insulted. It's aparad. Spitting on a great sage is a big aparad. So Agastya Muni cursed him that in the future he will be killed by a human being, immortal. So that curse came true, and then Kuvera became pacified because he remembered the curse. Fortunately, otherwise he was ready to attack Bhima, but immediately he remembered, it was actually ordained by the Lord. So that's why he became peaceful, and he told Pandavas, "You can stay in my place for as long as you want." Like that. So Bhima also met his brother Hanuman and got the blessings of Hanuman. Hanuman showed him the darshan, big darshan of him jumping, the form by which he jumped to Lanka. So that was also told. Correct. So and Bhima, Hanuman also assured that I'll be there in the fight, which will happen in the future. I'll be sitting on the top of Arjuna's chariot on the Dvaja. So Arjuna will be called as Kapit Dvaja. So with Hanuman's presence, victory was assured. Okay, thank you, Rishi. Anybody else? Okay.
Prabhuji
So,
called Ghatotkacha and his mates.
so Ghatotkacha, correct. So actually, Ghatotkacha took everybody on the shoulder, called his Rakshasas, and took everybody to the higher places. So, but another thing is, we learn from Bhima that how one should not be very angry. Because of Bhima's anger, he was getting into trouble. Today also we will see one lesson how because of Bhima's anger, he got into trouble. So he wanted to take that 1,000-petal lotus and unnecessarily picked up a fight with Yakshas. He could have peacefully taken it with the permission of Kuvera, but he was proud of his strength and he tried to capture the flowers and take it. So, but at that time, the Kuvera's assistants they attacked and Bhima killed them unnecessarily. So, anger is also not a good quality. You want to try to restrain, control the anger. That's one lesson we can learn from Bhima. Okay. So, coming to today's session. So, the main points of today's session will be Arjuna's Guru Dakshina to Indra and Nahusha the snake. Nahusha was a rishi but who had become a snake. And Krishna visits the Pandavas again. And Duryodhana is rescued from Gandharva. So these 4 points. If possible, we'll try to discuss the 5th one also if time permits, which is the Akshay Patra. So starting with the first topic, Arjuna's Guru Dakshina. So Arjuna, when he came back to earth in Badrikashram to meet his brothers, at that time, all the Pandavas are curious. Arjuna, what you did in the heavens? What all things you did? What all achievements you had? Can you please tell? And Arjuna says, yes, I had done a lot of, I got a lot of weapons from Indra. I stayed there for about 5 years and I learned so many things. And one day, when the time was up for me to return, so at that time I asked Indra that you have taught me so much, so how can I repay you? Or what Guru Dakshina can I give you? So at that time, Indra says that you can give me Guru Dakshina of defeating this Nivata Kavachas. These Nivata Kavachas are a race of demons who are undefeatable. Even Devatas have not been able to defeat them. They are so powerful. So, and I think that because you have got so many weapons, you have got blessings of Lord Shiva, you will be able to defeat them. Then Arjuna says, okay, so I will do it for you. So Indra says, take my chariot and my driver, Matali will drive and you go with this chariot and you fight with them. And these Nivata Kavachas, they were extremely ferocious and they were staying in very, very, very secluded place. Actually, you have to go into the ocean, into the depths of the ocean, and there was a kingdom of like Nivata Kavachas. Very inaccessible, but very extremely powerful place. Extremely powerful people were also there. So Arjuna takes this chariot, and Matali was such an expert driver. He takes this chariot through the air and into the water, and he drives the chariot inside the water and goes deep, deep, deep inside. And then finally, they come to a place which is very, very shining, very effulgent, and so many demons were present there. And that was the place of Nivata Kavachas. And as soon as Arjuna goes there, the demons hear the rattling of the sound of the horse. Horse means horse's hoofs and the chariot wheels. Because Indra's chariot was not ordinary. It was extremely powerful, big chariot driven by thousands of horses. It was so powerful chariot. And hearing the sound, they understood Indra has come to attack. Actually, they misunderstood, thinking that it is Indra attacking. But actually, Arjuna, he had brought Indra's chariot. And seeing this, the demons surrounded and Arjuna, and then start throwing all kinds of weapons at Arjuna. And Arjuna became immediately alert and he started shooting arrows at all of them. It was a very, very fierce battle. And you will see what kind of weapons he was using while fighting with Nivata Kavachas. Actually, when they started throwing weapons, Arjuna immediately, actually, whatever weapons he had learned, he used all the weapons while fighting with these people. It is said that when Arjuna was fighting with Nivata Kavachas and Kalakeyas, he first used Brahma mantras, by which he dissipated all the weapons and destroyed the weapons of these Nivata Kavachas. And then this Nivata Kavacha, they started throwing different kinds of weapons and doing mystic powers, and then he used his Vajra, and then he defeated all their weapons. And then they started throwing big boulders and stones at Arjuna. And then Arjuna, he started shooting crescent-shaped arrows. Crescent means like a moon. So moon-shaped arrows, and it was breaking into pieces all the big stones which were being thrown. And then they started making certain kind of illusions by which water started rising everywhere. And Arjuna could see only water everywhere. Then he used a weapon, fiery weapon, Vishoshana. Vishoshana means which dries up the water. So with that, he dried up all the water that was present. And then that illusion was removed. And then they started throwing fire at Arjuna. So like different tongues of fires were coming towards Arjuna from all directions. Then Arjuna used a weapon called water weapon, right? Varna weapon. And with that he nullified the fire. Generally when there is fire, you put water to stop it. So similarly here, they started putting water weapons. Arjuna started putting water weapons. See here Arjuna is alone and with so many fierce demons, but still is able to fight. So and then they started blowing wind. Right? Initially they put fire, means water, then they put fire, then they started blowing wind. And when the wind came, Arjuna shot a weapon by which a mountain was made. And then the wind was stopped. And then they started making such an illusion that everybody disappeared and Arjuna could not see anything. It was pitch darkness. And Matali also could not see anything. Arjuna also could not see anything. And they were wondering what to do. And the Rakshasas were wanting to invisibly attack the Pandavas, the Pandava Arjuna. So at that time, Arjuna used a weapon called Shabdavedi, and he immediately dissipated all the illusions, and the illusions were removed. So in this way, Arjuna dissipated all the illusions, and then finally he started using Vajra and thoroughly defeated all the Nivata Kavachas. So after this, he went into the city of the Nivata Kavachas and he saw that the city is more opulent than Swarga. And Arjuna asked Matali, this looks more opulent than Swarga. So how is this possible? And actually Matali said, actually Indra used to stay here sometimes, but these demons have captured this. And it was predicted that in the future, Indra will get back this place. And now it has become true. So in this way, so the kingdom of Nivata Kavachas was defeated. And after defeating Nivata Kavachas, Arjuna again started going up towards Indraloka because he already gained victory. And on the way, he saw another planet in the space, which was also very effulgent and shining. And then Arjuna asked Matali, what is this? He said, this is the place of Kalakeyas, where another set of demons are staying, and these extremely powerful demons. So after hearing this, Arjuna said, we'll defeat them also. The Arjuna blew the conch, declaring a war, and all the demons from that planet came out to fight against Arjuna. Simultaneously, they started throwing axe, gadha, spears, and all kinds of arrows and weapons. And then Arjuna tried to counter them with his celestial weapons, but he was not able to counter because they were extremely powerful. And in fact, they were also having beautiful chariots laden with flags. So, and Arjuna was not able to concentrate on fighting. He got distracted. So at that time, Arjuna maintains composure and then he chants the mantra for Lord Shiva. He invokes Pashupatastra, which is the most powerful weapon among all the weapons. So when he invokes Pashupatastra, the Shiva personified, Pashupatastra personified comes next to him, and then this Pashupatastra sends forth a big group of Rudras, you can say, Bhutas, and all the kind of powerful personalities, and they go and wreak havoc in the army of his Kalakiyas. And in this way, everybody was defeated. Then finally he goes back, Arjuna goes back and then meets Indra. So this is Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is very extremely powerful. So by his blessings, he could defeat Arjuna. Actually, when he chanted the mantra for Lord Shiva appeared there. And Arjuna on the spot, he offers obeisances to Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is extremely powerful. And we can also pray to Lord Shiva as Vaishnavas because Shiva is also a Vaishnava. Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. Shiva is topmost among all the Vaishnavas. Actually, Vaishnavas get blessings of Lord Shiva if you worship in the mode of a devotee. For example, Prachetas, they wanted to meet Lord Krishna. So they got the blessings of Lord Shiva by which they could meet Lord Vishnu. So whenever you go to Shiva temple, you can pray, "Oh Lord Shiva, kindly give me devotion to Lord Krishna," because you are a devotee of Lord Krishna. If you see Lord Shiva always sitting in meditation, and what is he doing? He is chanting the name of Rama. Right? So he is chanting the name of, actually his worshipable Lord is Sankarshana, and he chants the name of Lord Rama. Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane. He is glorifying the name of Lord Rama. Hare Krishna. Jitesh says, Prabhuji, how will be the mountain weapon? Interesting question. Actually, mountain weapon means, actually it's a astra only. See, they used to have this arrows, and with that arrows, they'll put in the arrow will put in the bow, and they'll invoke the mantra. Okay, it's not that they are taking the mountain and throwing. They'll invoke the mantra, and with that mantra, they can invoke water, fire, mountain, any kind of weapon, Brahmastra, Pashupatastra, they can invoke. Actually, these all weapons are mantras. Right? Brahmastra is a mantra, Varunastra is a mantra, and even you can say, Pashupatastra is a mantra. So when you chant that mantra, that weapon is invoked, that power is invoked, and that goes and destroys the enemy. Right? So it is said that in the past, the Brahmanas are so pure that just by chanting mantras, they can produce fire. They don't have to use this matches. Right? They don't have to use the matchbox. They'll just chant mantras and then fire will come. So, and they'll just chant mantras and rain will come. Right? So there is a mantra, there is this tune for singing. When you sing that tune, rains will come. So those kind of, like you hear that recently, some centuries back, there was one singer who sang and immediately rain started coming. And even lamps were lit by the chanting of those meters. So that kind of power is there in the sound. So these mantras are also those kind of powers. And when you invoke that mantra, that effect is produced. They are more powerful than even nuclear weapons also. So nuclear weapons now, when you drop somewhere, it destroys the entire city, entire country also sometimes. But these Brahmastras were such mantras that when you chant that mantra, it will specifically go and destroy that particular object without harming others. So that is the kind of power they had. Yeah, Mohit is telling Tansen, correct? Tansen was the one who lit the fire by singing the particular raga. So those powers were there, but nowadays it is lacking, it is missing. So And not only the chanting of mantras, it also requires purity of mind. One should be pure in the mind. And with that purity, when you chant, it produces effect. Just chanting will not produce any effect. Okay, you should chant with purity. So you will see later on, Karna also had the mantra for Brahmastra. And he had got powers, but he could not remember because of lack of purity. He did so many sinful activities, he offended his guru, and because of his offenses, he could not remember the mantra at the right time. So knowing the mantra is one thing, but also to apply it and practice it, one needs purity of mind. So Arjuna was very pure. We can see from his character. So that purity gives one force, it gives one power to do these great activities. So one should try to maintain purity and not commit sinful activities. Okay, that's another lesson we can learn. If you want to become powerful, remain pure. If you want to become weak, then one can do impure activities. Okay, so that is another lesson. So I hope that is clear, Jitashri. Okay. So after this, yeah. So that was the first part. So Arjuna tells this story, and then actually after telling these stories about his adventures, all the Pandavas became curious. Yudhishthira also becomes curious. Hey Arjuna, can you show me those powers which you have learned? The Arjuna says, okay, I'll show you all the powers. So immediately Arjuna stands in meditation. He fully concentrates, remembers the Lord, and then he starts reciting the mantras and invoking all the astras. And the earth started trembling. There was silence, kind of silence everywhere. And then even the animals, everybody got fearful. And at that time, Brahmaji comes. And Brahmaji tells Arjuna, Arjuna, don't do this. These powers should be invoked only at the right time. Now is not the right time. You should use it only against a particular enemy, right? And equally powerful enemy, not against weak people. So this is not the time. This will cause universal destruction. Please don't use these weapons. So similarly, if somebody has great power, one should use it in a proper way. If you use it in a proper way, then what will happen? It will cause destruction. Okay. So like some of the scientists, they experimented nuclear bomb and dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's the first bomb dropped, and the effect was so disastrous. So it killed innocent people. Not only the enemy army, but it killed innocent people, which is sinful. So if you have power, then you should use it in a right way, not misuse it. That's what we can learn from this instruction of Brahmaji. And then Brahmaji disappears and goes away. And Brahmaji also predicts that soon in the future there will be a war. At that time, we can use all these weapons and we'll become victorious. So that victory assurance was also given by the Lord. So then, these Pandavas, they were staying in Kamyaka forest. So at that time, they were actually settling in one place. So at that time, Bhima alone goes into the forest. He goes into the forest and he was hunting, kind of practicing hunting, and whatever wild fierce animals are coming on the way, just slapping them. Like some wild boars started attacking him, and Bhima just slapped them. And by the slap, they died. And big elephants were coming. So Bhima caught them and then threw them away. So like this, whatever comes on the way, he was just kind of practicing his power, like doing some exercise kind of thing. He was uprooting trees. He was throwing trees here and there. So like this he was doing. And then finally he came to one place. Right? It's kind of a mountain. He climbed up and then he entered there and he saw a big snake. And when he saw the big snake, he saw as if death is present here. And seeing this big snake, Bhima thought that I'll fight with him and kill him. But instantly the snake grabbed him. And then snake coiled around this Bhima and captured him. And Bhima tried to release himself, but he was not able to. And he was wondering, what kind of snake is this? That which has caught me? Previously, I had gone to Nagaloka and many snakes were biting me. Nothing happened to me. Who is this snake? What kind of snake is this? He was a little curious. So he asked this snake, who are you? Then the snake said, actually, I am Nahusha. I am not an ordinary snake. I have a heavenly personality. And because of the curse of Agastya Rishi, I have become this snake here. And Agastya Rishi has told that whoever comes in my vicinity, they'll be my food. Their power will be reduced. Whoever comes to me, their power will get reduced. And I can immediately capture them and eat them. So because of you coming to me, your power has now gone away and I'll eat you now. You will become my food. Since many days I am hungry, I have not eaten properly. So you will become my food. And Bhima was wondering, what kind of snake is this and he's going to eat me? So then he was trying to find some ways how to get released. And here Yudhishthira Maharaj is in his place and he is getting some bad indications and bad omens. You know, sometimes bad omens are seen in the atmosphere. Like sometimes dogs are howling in the night. You can hear some voice, very scary voice. Sometimes foxes also come and howl. And you'll see that sometimes even lizards make sound, tick, 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 tick sound. Inauspicious. Right? And sometimes the left portion of the body twitches like this. Eyes come twitching and hands start twitching. For men, if left side twitches, then it's bad sign. So in this way, Yudhishthira was feeling some bad symbols everywhere. It's called nimittas. And he thought some danger is there. He asked Draupadi, where is Bhima? And Draupadi said, I have not seen Bhima since long time. He's gone somewhere. I don't know. And Yudhishthira immediately understood. Bhima is in trouble. So immediately he ran. Arjuna, Yudhishthira ran. And it was easy to find Bhima. Right? How is it easy to find Bhima? Can anybody say? How to find where is Bhima?
From the way that he all the elephants, like the trees.
Yes, very easy. Wherever trees have fallen, wherever animals are dead, that's the place. You keep following that path, and immediately you will come to the place where Bhima is there. So he just started following the path where there was destruction. Then he came to one place where the destruction ended, and there was all thick bushes. Wherever Bhima had gone, he had removed the trees. Now here the thick forest was there, and Yudhishthira thinks, okay, Bhima must be somewhere nearby. So he just comes near and he finds a snake. And in the coils of the snake was Bhima. And then Bhima, and Yudhishthira was wondering now, if this snake has captured Bhima, then this snake must be extremely powerful. Then he asks, who are you? Then he says, I'm Nahusha. Actually, Nahusha, Yudhishthira knew the story of Nahusha, he being a great sage. And he had gone to heaven. Actually, when Indra was absent because of some reason, they put Nahusha as the Indra. So that much credits Nahusha had got. So he went to Indraloka, and in Indraloka, he was ruling Indraloka. And on one day, he got attracted to Sachi, the wife of Indra, and he wanted to meet her personally. And Sachi said, okay, I'll meet you only if you come in a palki carried by sages, Saptarishis. Then Nahusha made all the Saptarishis carry him. And among them, Agastya was also there. And Agastya is little short in height. So Agastya was going slow. But Nahusha wanted fast. So he said, Sarpa, go fast, go fast. And Agastya got wild. He said, you are ordering me, you are insulting me. You become Sarpa. So immediately touched water and curse, you become Sarpa and go to the earth. And Nahusha immediately fell from there and became a snake. So that was the pastime which happened. So Nahusha and Bhima was the food for Nahusha. So then Yudhishthira was thinking, Hari, if he has cursed, if I liberate him from this curse, then he will be, even Bhima also will be free. So then he asked, what will be, how can I liberate you from this curse? So then Nahusha said, if you can answer my questions properly, then I'll be liberated from this curse. Acha, okay, let's try. I will try to answer your questions. So then Nahusha ask some questions to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yes. So I want one person, one of you, to read the question and another of you to read the answer. So who would like to volunteer? Okay. So Avani is volunteering. Avani can read the question and maybe Rishi can read the answer. Okay. Yeah. Avani, you can read the question.
Prabhuji, I raised the hand before and I forgot to read it.
Yeah. So you can read the answer, Rishi.
Okay, Prabhuji.
To Brahmin, O king, and what is the highest object of knowledge?
So that's the question. Two questions. How can we recognize a true Brahmana? And what is the object of knowledge? Highest object of knowledge. So now Rishi can read the answer.
Yes, Prabhuji. A Brahmin is characterized by the qualities of honesty, purity, forgiveness, self-control, asceticism, knowledge, and religiosity. The highest object of knowledge is the Supreme Brahman, which can be known when one has transcended all duality.
Yeah. So the qualities of Brahman are given here. So these 5 qualities. Honesty means what? Speaking always the truth. That is honesty. Doing what you say. You say something, I'll do it. Right? You promise something to your friend, then you should keep the promise. That's called honesty. Purity means what? Not doing sinful activities. That's called purity. Purity of body and purity of mind also. Right? So purity of body means taking bath daily, and keeping your clothes clean, and also keeping your mind clean by chanting Hare Krishna. Purity. Forgiveness means if somebody insults us or somebody does something wrong to us, forgiving. Like Yudhishthira was always forgiving Duryodhana. Duryodhana did so many things, but still Yudhishthira was forgiving. That's forgiveness. And self-control means one should control one's senses, like Arjuna controlled his senses and Urushi tempted her. That's sense control. Asceticism is doing tapasya. Knowledge, gaining the Vedic knowledge, like all of you are studying Mahabharata now. Some of you are studying Bhagavad Gita, some of you are studying Bhagavatam also from Swayam Prakash Rup. So that's called the developing spiritual knowledge. And religiosity means following dharma. So these are the qualities of Brahmana. Shamodam tapashaucham shanti rajamevacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma sabhavajam. So these are the 8 qualities of Brahmana mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also. And what is the highest object of knowledge? Brahman, Supreme Brahman, who is none other than Krishna. So Nahusha is very happy hearing this answer. But Nahusha wants to further test. So Nahusha asks, okay, can Avani read this question?
Prabhuji, can I read?
Yes. Who is that?
Jitashri.
Okay, you can also read Jitashri.
The qualities you have attributed to Brahmins are also found in other classes of men. Nahusha replied doubtfully, and how can anyone exist without experiencing happiness and distress, the basis of all duality?
See, somebody may be born in a Kshatriya family but show the qualities of Brahmana. Even somebody may be born in Shudra family and he may also show the qualities of Brahmana. So, who is a Brahmana? Is somebody born in a Brahman family only, or anybody born in other families can also be a Brahmana? That is the question. It's a very good question. So let's see the answer to that question.
Prabhuji, can I read the answer?
Prabhuji, can I read? Prabhuji, Avani, can I read?
We'll give chance to others also. Okay, we'll come back to you again. Who was raising the hand?
Prabhuji Srigar.
Yeah, please read.
If one finds these qualities in any man, then he should be known as Brahmin, no matter what his birth may have been. Happiness and distress in relationship to material objects can be transcendented while still being experienced in relation to the soul. Material emotions are prevented reflections of original spiritual feelings.
Perverted reflections of original spiritual feelings. Okay. So the first question to the first question's answer is that if you find Brahmana qualities in anybody, he should be considered a Brahmana. Birth is not the criteria. If somebody is born in a Shudra family, but he's showing Brahmanical qualities, he should be called as a Brahmana.
Prabhuji,
Right.
yes, even Swayam Prakash Prabhu taught us this.
Yeah, for example, Valmiki, he was kind of became a dacoit, but later on he started exhibiting the qualities of a great sage. So he's called as a sage. He is more than a Brahman, isn't it? So in this way, we have to see the qualities, not the birth of a person. Like if, for example, the son of a judge can become an engineer, or he can become a doctor also. But there's more chance that he can become a judge because his father is a judge. So similarly, a Brahmana's son may become a Brahmana, good chance, but it need not be. So a Shudra's son can also become a Brahmana if he is exhibiting those qualities. Okay. And happiness and distress can be transcended when you experience spiritual happiness. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama apayino nityastam titikshasa bharata. And only when you experience spiritual happiness, you can tolerate happiness and distress. Nirdvandvo, nitya sattvasto, niryogakshe mahatma. And you'll become nirdvandva, free from all dualities. Like now, till now winter was there. Now winter is going, and eventually summer will come, isn't it? The hot season will come. So we have to tolerate this heat and cold. And after summer, again rainy season will come, and after rainy season again winter season will come. So this keeps on changing. So you have to just tolerate it. To the degree you're spiritually situated, to that degree you have to tolerate these things. Okay, now we'll have two more people reading the third question. Can somebody read this third question? Yes, who will volunteer?
Sir, me.
Sir, me, can I?
Wait, who is that? You can raise your hand. I'm not able to see who is he. Or you can switch on the video also. Avani will come back to you again. You read, right? We'll give a chance to others and we'll come back in a circle. Okay, Shrutika wants to read.
Prabhuji, can I?
So Shrutika is raising hand, then Sridhar can read the answer. Okay. And you can turn on the video also if possible.
Sir, can I read?
Yes, please.
What was the use of dividing society according to caste if such divisions mean nothing?
Okay, if only qualities are required, then why to divide based on the birth? What is the reason? So that's the question. Let's see the answer. Yes, Sridhar wants to read.
Due to the intermixture of social classes, it had become difficult to ascertain a man's class. Only by examining his actual qualities could a man's class be known. Thus, society should be divided on that basis only, not on the basis of birth.
Yeah, so because of intermixing of social classes, a lot of like if say Brahmana marries a Kshatriya, Kshatriya marries a Vaishya, like that, a lot of intermixing happens, then it is difficult to ascertain the person's guna. So in that way, what you have to do is you have to see the activities of a person, qualities of a person, and then you have to see which varna he belongs to. Okay, so when the intermixing of varnas happen, varna means social classes, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So when that's mixed up, then it becomes difficult to ascertain what kind of child, what kind of qualities the child will have. So then what you have to see, you have to actually see the qualities of the person and then find out what is varna. So that's why Yudhishthira Maharaj gave this kind of answer. Okay. So let's see next. Now, Yudhishthira Maharaj answers all the questions of Nahusha. Okay. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj becomes amazed. Hey, Nahusha is a great personality. Let me also ask him some questions because he is very, very well versed. So let me ask some questions. So Yudhishthira Maharaj asked questions to Nahusha. Yeah, please read. Yes. Avani can read now. You have to unmute and read. Okay, Avani is not responding, I think. Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can I?
Yeah, please read.
I too regard you as one possessed of superior knowledge. Please instruct me, if you will. By what acts can one attain heaven?
So, basically, question is, how can I attain heaven? Okay, and he gives a very good answer. Yes, Gauranga wants to read.
In my opinion, O Bhanga, one can reach heaven by giving charity to Brahmanas, by being kind and gentle in speech, by truthfulness, and by remaining non-envious towards all living beings.
Yeah, so these are the ways. So one should give charity, like giving gifts. Like previously, they used to give charity of cows, charity of land, sometimes gold. So the Brahmanas will use it in the service of the Lord. And one should be kind and gentle in speech, because one should not hurt others. If you hurt others, then you cannot go to heaven, because you'll disturb there also people. Truthful and non-envious. So then he says, which of those acts do you consider the best? And what constitutes non-envy? Okay, which among charity, among speaking truthfulness, and all these things, what is the best and what is non-envy? He asks. Okay. So somebody can read this.
Prabhuji, can I read?
Avani, we'll give you a chance. We'll come back to you. There's a long purport. Somebody else can read. You can read a short one. Yeah. Yes, Gayatri.
Each of these items can be considered superior or inferior, depending upon circumstance. One must therefore understand life's ultimate goal in order to know how to act properly at all times. This you have already explained. O King, all facts and knowledge should be aimed at achieving the supreme. Non-envy means always desiring the welfare and advancement of all living beings rather than to exploit them for one's own pleasure. In particular, one should desire the spiritual progress of others and assist them in that progress.
Located between the
Uh,
66.5 degree and the north one.
Hare Krishna. Disturbance there. So which of them is best? Actually, all are good. All are best. Depends upon how you apply them. So one should engage them in service of the Lord. Okay, that is the best. Whatever you are doing, charity or it may be truth, speaking the truth or whatever it may be, it should be done in the mood of service to the Lord. So that's what Nahusha says. And non-envy means what? Always think of others' welfare. Don't harm anybody. So that is called non-envy. In fact, one should help others to progress in spiritual life. See, Duryodhana was envious of Pandavas, but Yudhishthira Maharaj is never envious of Duryodhana. So Yudhishthira Maharaj was practicing non-envy, but Duryodhana was practicing envy. He wanted to, at any cost, cause trouble to Pandavas. So that is the difference between both of them. So in this way, this discussion ends here, and after this discussion ends, Nahusha immediately assumes his original form. He becomes a Gandharva again, heavenly body again, not a Gandharva, but he was heavenly personality. He again goes back to heaven and gets liberated. Okay, the repetition. Okay, one more question is there. Yeah, can read now. Avani can read this question.
Prabhuji, I can read the answer.
Yes, yes. Aniket can read the answer. Okay. Yes, Avani, you can read the question.
How does the soul accept a material body? Oh, Nashula.
Nahusha. Nahusha is the name of the snake. Okay. So, Aniket, can you read this?
The soul or Atma receives body according to his own behavior. Thus, he transmigrates life after life, impelled by his sinful and pious acts, sometimes going to heaven and sometimes moving about in the body of an animal. Final liberation is attained when one comes to know Brahman, the supreme absolute.
Yeah, so based upon your activities, you get a next body. And if you do sinful activities, you get a sinful body. If you do good activities, you get a heavenly body. If you do spiritual activities, you will attain liberation and go to Brahman. So that was the answer given in brief. So that was the. So after this, Nahusha attains his original form, and he gets liberated from this curse, and he goes back to his original place. So in this way, here you can see that he was liberated from this curse, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj warns Bhima, "Hey, Bhima, don't do like this again. Don't do independent works, and you'll get into trouble. Previously also you got into trouble with Yaksha, Kuvera, and now you again got into trouble with the snake. So be careful. Don't become angry unnecessarily. Otherwise you'll get into trouble." See, Bhima was powerful, but more powerful than power, more important than power is dharma. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is following dharma. And because he was following dharma, he was able to protect even most powerful Bhima also. Right? So knowledge is more powerful than physical strength. So that's what we can learn. Yeah. So Vaishali Mati is going to Brahman, liberation. Yeah, Brahman means liberation, or it can mean Vaikuntha also, going to Vaikuntha and serve the Lord. So both meanings can be there for Brahman. But generally Vaishnavas understand it's going to Vaikuntha. Okay. Not just going to Brahma Jyoti, but going to Vaikuntha. So after this incident, the Pandavas were continuing to stay in the forest. They stayed for some more time, and it was rainy season time. So for Chaturmasa they spent there, and after that they go to Kameka forest in a place called Dvaitavana. They were staying, and at that time their dear friend, well-wisher Krishna comes to meet them again. So first time he had come in the forest to meet them, and they had just gone out of Hastinapur. At that time he came to meet them, and now again Krishna comes to meet the Pandavas, and Pandavas meet them, especially Draupadi meets Krishna. She is so happy meeting Krishna, and then Krishna assures them that no, now you're suffering so much, but very soon that time is going to come. Now it's the 12th year, just one more year. One more year, you just tolerate being in the forest. If they don't give back your kingdom, and all the Kauravas will be dead. And I'll personally ensure that this will happen. Don't worry about this. So like that, Krishna was giving assurance to Pandavas and Draupadi. And at that time, right at the time when they were in the middle of the discussion, one great sage comes. His name was Markandeya Rishi. So Markandeya Rishi is a great sage, and he is immortal. It is said that he never dies. He has he never dies in the sense, actually soul never dies. None of us die. There's no death for any of us. Only the body keeps changing, that's all. Soul is eternal. But Markandeya Rishi, even his body stays for a long time. So almost immortal. So he had got this benediction from Lord Shiva. And Markandeya Rishi also is a devotee of Lord Krishna. So he comes to meet the Pandavas, and Pandavas, seeing Markandeya Rishi, they get up, they offer obeisances, they wash his feet, they give him some fruits and water to drink, and then they surround him. At that time, even Narada Muni comes. So Narada and Markandeya both were there. They were looking like sun and moon together. And then Pandavas ask questions. You're immortal sage, you're traveling all over the universe. Please tell us about the great kings and the great sages of this world. And Markandeya Rishi continues speaking. He speaks about the great kings, the histories of this world, the creation, how it happened, what happens at the time of destruction, because he has seen many pralayas and srishtis. So he describes everything, how the lotus comes from Brahma's navel and the whole creation happens and how it is all destroyed. Everything he explains. And then he tells about many sages. And finally he says that I had a personal experience. When at one point of time, when there was pralaya, the whole earth is submerged with water. And there's water everywhere, everywhere. And I was floating in the water in this ocean. And there were big, big waves coming, and I didn't know where to go. And I was swimming, swimming, swimming. And finally I came to one tree. It was a Vatavriksha, means a banyan tree. And on the leaf of that banyan tree, I saw a small baby. Right, I'll come back to this quote again. Yeah, he sees this. So he sees this scene, and then he describes that this the baby was so attractive, so charming. And I was wondering from where this baby has come. And I was looking at this baby and I was wondering who is he. And suddenly he opened his mouth and I entered inside his mouth. And I went inside and I saw the entire creation within his stomach. I saw big, big mountains, big, big rivers. I saw cities and villages and pasture grounds and farms, all the planetary systems, the sun and the moon, everything I could see in this. And I roamed inside that boy's body for a long, long, long time, never finding any end. And finally, he breathed out and I came out of his mouth and he said that actually I am the Supreme Lord. I am called Vishnu, or I am called as Hari, and I am the creator of this whole universe. So Markandeya Rishi offers obeisances and prayers to this child. And then the child says that you stay in my body till the time of this destruction gets over. And when the next creation comes, you can come out. So like this, I stayed in the body of this baby for a long time, he says. And then Markandeya Rishi says, actually, you see this Krishna who is standing with us? The baby, that same baby has come as Lord Krishna here. There's no difference. He is that same Supreme Lord. He is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Yudhishthira Maharaj, please understand that you have the company of the Supreme Lord with you, and what worry you should have. No worries. Just surrender to him and all success will be attained by you. Like that he says. So then he offers a prayer to this child. Kararavindena padaravindam mukharavinde viniveshayantam vatasya patrasya puteshayan balam mukundam manasasmarami.
Prabhuji, I go to singing class in that she has taught us a bhajan, my ma'am. Before that, she has taught the shloka.
Oh, wonderful. This beautiful shloka. Can you explain the meaning of this shloka if you know?
Prabhuji, what? Prabhuji,
Can you explain the meaning?
No, she just taught me the first para of the shloka, I mean the song. So she told she'll explain next class. I'll tell you next class.
Okay, I'll tell you the meaning now. Kararavindena padaravindam. Kara means hand. Kararavindam means lotus hand. Krishna's hands are soft like lotus hand. Kararavindam vindena padaravindam. He is holding his feet, lotus feet, with his lotus hand. Mukharavinde viniveshayantam. And is putting the toe in the mouth. Okay, Mukharavinda. Kararavinda, Padaravinda, Mukharavinda. See, because Krishna's face or mouth is also like a lotus. And where he is resting? Vatasya patrasya puteshayanam. Vatapatra means the leaf of a Vatavriksha, which is Ashwatha tree. Vatasya patrasya puteshayanam, he is resting. And who is he? Balam Mukundam Manasa Smarami. And the author of this song is telling, I remember this form of Mukunda. Mukunda means Mukundam, Muktim Dadati. One who gives Mukti is called as Mukunda. So Lord Krishna gives liberation. That's his word, Mukunda. Balam Mukundam Manasa Smarami. So we should always think about Krishna in this form. Now you ask the question, why Krishna is licking his toe? It is said that all the devotees are offering obeisances to the lotus feet of Krishna and they're tasting nectar from Krishna's lotus feet. They are serving Krishna and finding such happiness. So Krishna is wondering one day, what is there in my feet? The devotees are sticking to my feet like honeybees. Like when honeybees always are around the flower. So what is there in my feet that devotees are so attracted to my feet. So then Krishna wanted to taste his lotus feet. That's why it took the form of his baby and is sucking his toe, trying to taste the nectar which his devotees are tasting. So that's the pastime of this. So in this way, so Markandeya Rishi, he glorifies Krishna in Vanavas. And after this, Draupadi also, Draupadi meets Satyabhama, and Satyabhama asks many questions. You'll see on that side in behind, Krishna is discussing with Pandavas, and here Draupadi and Satyabhama, they're discussing with each other. And Satyabhama is asking Draupadi that how are you serving all these 5 husbands and you're so blissful? What is the secret? Like that, she is asking to Draupadi. And Draupadi says, here she reveals the secret. No? For those who are ladies, girls, it will be very helpful to understand. So I didn't put it in the slide, but I'll try to read from Mahabharata what instructions she is giving. So Draupadi says that abandoning all vanity and subduing desire and wrath, I serve my husbands with attention. I don't think of any other men. I just think of my husbands only. Okay, I'm not jealous of my husbands, and in front of my husbands I don't sleep. I sleep after they sleep, and I don't take bath in front of them. I take separately, and I don't eat in front of my husbands. I eat after they eat, like that. So these are some of the etiquettes to be followed. Indian culture also, the culture of there that first the husbands eat, and then the chaste wife, she eats. So, and then she said that I always keep my house clean so that my husbands will not have any inconvenience. I'll keep all the items at a proper place, and I'll cook properly. I'll keep my kitchen also very, very orderly. I'll keep everything in order. And then she says that when in front of my husbands, I decorate myself very nicely. But in the absence of my husbands, I just remove all my ornaments because my beauty is only for the pleasure of my husbands, not for others' pleasure. And I'm always attentive in your duty. I never become lazy in executing my duties. So in this way, she also said that I sleep after my husband sleep and I get up before they get up. So that's the kind of service she was doing. So these are some of the qualities of a chaste wife. And of course, the husband also should be so chaste and so pure that the wife also gets inspired to serve the husband. So husband should be very gentleman and wife should be chaste. So that combination is very, very good. So these are the instructions which Draupadi shares with Satyabhama. Okay. And coming to the last portion, very interesting portion of Mahabharata. So Duryodhana was captured by Gandharvas and then rescued by Arjuna. So what happened?
He was captured because something happened between him and the Gandharva princess, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what is the story. So what happened was, when Pandavas are staying in this forest near Dvaitavan, so Duryodhana got the news that Pandavas are there here in this place. And he was very happy. Pandavas are in forest. Now I'm enjoying this kingdom. But Shakuni gives the idea. Duryodhana, Pandavas are here. Now why don't we go and show our opulence to them? We'll show our garments, we'll show our wealth, we'll show our power. So in this way, Pandavas will feel more if some wound is there, you put some salt on that. How will you feel? It will burn more. So he wanted to put salt on the wound. So then Duryodhana says, oh, very good idea. But my father will not agree to this. So, but somehow they go and propose to father that we want to go and go to this forest actually. Actually, they give a reason that no, our cows are there, our cowherd men have gone there, and there are lakhs of cows. We want to count them because this is a time when we generally do counting of the cows at this time. Dhritarashtra says, yes, it is the duty of Kshatriya to take care of the cows, count them and protect them. But Pandavas are also there. They will kill you. Bhima is there. Bhima will kill you. Don't go there. No, but then Karna says, no, Yudhishthira is there. Yudhishthira will control Bhima and nothing will happen. We will not go to Pandavas only. We will be somewhere else. So don't worry. So then finally Dhritarashtra unwillingly says, okay, you go. Then Duryodhana and his team prepares. It's Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna, Shakuni, and all the brothers, all the 100 Kauravas, they all go. And how did they go? They took 8,000 chariots, and they took 30,000 elephants. My God, 9,000 horses, and many thousands of infantry, and so many Vaishyas and other caretakers. It's a big army marching towards Dvaitavan as if they're going for war only. So they all go there near Dvaitavan, and about 4 kilometers from the lake, they make a tent and they make their residential places. And Duryodhana was very happy staying in the forest. Generally, all of you like to go to forest or garden place, isn't it? You go to the garden
Yes,
place
Roger.
and you like to enjoy the nice breeze and fresh waters and all these things. So it's very nice. So finally, he said, we'll count. So he counted all the cows, lakhs of cows were there, they counted it. And after the counting was over, they had nice feast and they were enjoying. And Duryodhana, he wanted to go towards the place of Dvaitavan, the lake. So they came towards the lake. And there, what happened was, on the other side, Duryodhana could see the Pandavas. Okay. And Pandavas are surrounded by sages and they're doing sacrifices. Swaha, Swaha, they're doing yajnas. And Duryodhana felt, I'll make a palace here and I'll make the Pandavas more envious. He told his men, you make a palace here, I'll come after some time. So they started making palace. At that time they heard a voice, stop it! We are Gandharvas. This is our area. You cannot build a palace here. So these people, they were scared. They went to Duryodhana and said, no, such and such Gandharvas are telling we cannot build a palace here. What to do? And Duryodhana said, Gandharvas, go and fight with them. Just defeat them, let them run away, and then you make the palace. So they went and tried to fight, but Gandharvas are so powerful, they started shooting arrows. And then Karna, Dushasana, all the Kauravas, they started fighting. And Karna tried to stop all this Gandharvas, but Karna was overpowered. Even Karna, his chariot was broken, his charioteer was injured, horses were killed, and he himself had to jump out of the chariot.
Tauji, he ran away.
Yeah, and he sat on the chariot of Vikarna and he said, no, run away from here, I cannot fight with them. So Karna ran away. And here Duryodhana and Dushasana, Duryodhana also comes when he gets the news that no, they are defeating. Duryodhana comes and he starts fighting with Chitrasena, but Chitrasena captures Duryodhana. He binds him and he captures all the Kauravas, 100 Kauravas, and he captures all their wives and ministers, and everybody was captured. And they were taking them through the sky to the higher places. And some few Kauravas, they escaped and they went to Yudhishthira Maharaj and said, please help us. Duryodhana is captured and they're taking away. Please be kind. And Yudhishthira Maharaj says, hey, he's capturing. Please, Arjuna, go and help him. But Bhima said, oh, very nice, very nice. We wanted to defeat, and this Gandharvas have already done the job. So it's very nice. Let him be punished. Let him be killed. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj says, Bhima, don't tell like this. See, between us there is problem. They are 100, we are 5. But when it comes to our family problem, we are 105. We are together. Now it is a family problem. Our heritage, our family lines is in danger. So we should go and protect. All the Pandavas, you go, 4 of you go and protect. So they all 4 of them, they go and they took the Rath, chariots of Kauravas. But they didn't have Rath, no? They were in the forest. They took their Raths and they started fighting. And Arjuna fights with Chitrasena with celestial weapons. And he shoots and they start killing Gandharvas by thousands. Thousands and thousands of Gandharvas are killed. And finally, Arjuna defeats Chitrasena. And Chitrasena, being very pleased with the fight, he comes down. And he comes in a very peaceful mode. He says, I'll not fight. He comes and he says, Arjuna, I'm your friend Chitrasena. Actually, both of them are very good friends. They had become friends before in the forest. So then he says, actually, I did this for a purpose. I captured Duryodhana because of a purpose, because Indra told me that Duryodhana has got evil intentions. He wants to tease the Pandavas. So capture him, bring him to Indraloka.
Then
So
we'll
that's why,
learn.
yes. So that's why I tried to capture him and bring him there. So allow me, let me take him to Indraloka. And Arjuna says, but Dharmaraj has said that no, we should not do like that. So let's go and ask him. So both of them go and ask Yudhishthira what to do. Yudhishthira says, release him, release Duryodhana. So let it end here. So then Chitrasena became very happy and he released everybody. And Indra came and he showered nectar on all the fallen Gandharvas and they all came back to life. So after this, Duryodhana becomes very morose, very insulted because he has been saved by Bhima and Arjuna. Well, Bhima is his enemy. Being protected by an enemy. It is intolerable. So he is so morose. So they wanted to go back. Everybody wanted to go back to their palace, but Duryodhana is telling, I will not come. And he sat down and he said, I will die here. I will fast until death. So that was a vow he took. Karna tried to convince him. Shakuni tried to convince him, but he was not at all convinced. Dushasana tried. He said no. And Duryodhana called Dushasana and said, no, I'm dying. No, you become the king. You become the prince. You go there. And Dushasana said, no. Without you, how can we live? Please come. But Duryodhana is determined. I will die. I cannot tolerate this kind of insult. So then Duryodhana started in meditation. And then here, one interesting story comes. What happens is, Danavas in the lower planets, they got worried because they were using Duryodhana as an instrument for spreading adharma. Actually, on this earth is very, very important place for both Devatas and Danavas. Whatever good people do here, that credit goes to Devatas. Like if you do yajna here, if you do chanting here, that credit goes to Devatas.
Somaras.
Yeah, the credit, they get the power actually. Indra and Varuna, all the Devatas, they get power by doing yajna here. If humans don't do yajna here, they'll not get that power. And similarly, if adharma spreads here, then asuras will get their power. So that's why Duryodhana was the instrument in their hands. So they get worried. A main player is going away. So what will happen to all of us? So then they did one yajna and they called Duryodhana in a very subtle body to their loka. And there, the leader of the Danavas, he says, Duryodhana, you are a very important person for all of us. You are the key player. We want to spread our power and influence in this earth planet through you. So be strong and we'll be behind you. Don't worry that Arjuna is so powerful. Karna will defeat him. In the future, we'll empower Karna and we'll defeat him. And we will also influence the mind of Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, and all the great warriors. And they will fight for you and they'll kill people by thousands in the battlefield by our influence. We'll modify their minds. So don't worry. Be confident. Victory will be yours. Go and fight. And we'll be behind you. See, all our Danava support is there with you. Don't worry. Go, Duryodhana, go. So like this, they assure Duryodhana, and Duryodhana feels very encouraged by all these words. Actually, these Danavas, they also had no intelligence. They didn't know that Krishna is there on the other side. With Krishna being on the Pandava side, who can defeat them? So they were foolish. But Duryodhana was also foolish. He listened to their words, and then he again came back and he opened his eyes out of meditation and he said, I'll leave. I'll come back with you to home and we'll fight. We'll surely win the battle. So that's what he said, and he again went back to. Okay, so this is the fight between Gandharva and Arjuna. Okay, so in this way, the Duryodhana again went back to the palace. So after this, what happens, we'll discuss in the next session. So the next session will be very interesting. The two main important sections. One is Yaksha Prashna and Ajnatavasa. That we'll discuss on Saturday. Mostly Saturday is good time. Next Saturday there is no program as such. So mostly can we have it 7:30 next Saturday. Okay. So today basically we discussed 4 points. One is about, the first one was about Arjuna's Kuru Dakshina, how he defeated the Nivata Kavachas. And second one was about encounter with Nahusha, how Yudhishthira Maharaj answered the questions of Nahusha and liberated Nahusha. Third one was Krishna and Markandeya visiting the Pandavas in the forest, and then Markandeya Rishi glorifying Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what happened. And the last one was Duryodhana. He's so envious. Yudhishthira is non-envious, but Duryodhana is so envious. He wants to trouble again and again and again Pandavas. So he was taught a lesson. He was thoroughly insulted by the Gandharvas. But still he did not give up hope, and he was again causing trouble. In the future also he'll cause so much trouble. You will see in Agyatava, so much trouble again he will cause. So this is the nature of demons. So basically what we can learn from this is one should curb one's demonic mentality and one should increase his divine mentality. And in this way, one will be able to become dear to Krishna. That's the conclusion of Mahabharata, right? Wherever actually you have to surrender to Krishna. That's what Bhagavad Gita says, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Right? After 2 sessions, we'll come to Bhagavad Gita, where the next session will be Agyatavas, and the next will be Virata Parva, and then there will be Bhagavad Gita is going to come soon. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that surrendering to me is the highest. That's what he's teaching. So Pandavas were always surrendered to Krishna. They always obeyed the orders of Krishna. But here on the other hand, Kauravas, they always disobeyed. So Pandavas won and Kauravas lost. So that's the lesson we can learn from this. Just be on the side of Krishna. And how to be on the side of Krishna? By worshipping him, by accepting him as the supreme, by chanting his names, we can be on the side of Krishna. So that's what we can learn. Okay, thank you very much for participating in this program, to each and every one of you. Before we end, Rishi had a question in the beginning. So Rishi can ask now. Yes, Rishi, are you there here? You had a question in the beginning.
I have something at 8:30, so can I leave?
Oh yes, you can leave. We are ending this. We have ended the session. But if anybody has questions, you can ask 1 or 2 questions.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Yes, anybody has a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhuji, Vasudeva the Shabdad Artha ಏನು?
ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ವಾಸುದೇವ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಸುದೇವನ ಮಗ. ರೈಟ್? ಕುಂತಿ ಕೌಂತೆಯ, ಕುಂತಿಯ ಮಗ ಕೌಂತೆಯ, ವಸುದೇವನ ಮಗ ವಾಸುದೇವ. ಆ ರೀತಿ.
ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಸು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಶಬ್ದ ಅದ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು? ವಾಸು ಅಥವಾ ವಸು.
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅರ್ಥ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ವಾಸವಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅವರು ವಾಸುದೇವ. ವಾಸುದೇವ ಸರ್ವಂ ಮಿತಿ ಸಮಹಾತ್ಮ ಸುದುರ್ಲಭ. ಯಾರ ವಾಸಸ್ಥಳ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಇದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಅವರು ನಿವಾಸ ಇದೆ, ಅವರು ವಾಸುದೇವ. ಆಲ್ ಪರ್ವೇಡಿಂಗ್ ವಾಸುದೇವ ಸರ್ವಂ ಮಿತಿ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಅವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಈ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನ ಇದೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಕಾಣ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಹುನಾಂ ಜನ್ಮಾನಾಂ ಅಂತೆ ಜ್ಞಾನವಾನ್ ಮಾಂ ಪ್ರಪದ್ಯತಿ ವಾಸುದೇವ ಸರ್ವಮಿತಿ ಸ ಮಹಾತ್ಮ ಸುದುರ್ಲಭ ಅಂತ ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಸುದೇವ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Prabhuji, we just joined today. May I know where we'll get all the videos?
Okay, you are there in the WhatsApp group?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So what I'll do, I'll tell my volunteer to post the link of the playlist. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
In the WhatsApp, we'll post the playlist. Then you can watch it. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Today was the 10th session. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay, so thank you so much. So we'll end our program here. We'll meet again next week.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Bhavani.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.